All right. It's 7 o'clock somewhere. And January the 16th, police and fire meeting. And we're going to forego all this stuff I put on our agenda with the pledge and stuff like that. I was told that that's not necessary in these meetings. Is that correct?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So let's just go opening to, do the citizens have any comments they would like to make before we get started on any of the agenda we have here on this?
Well, I think we're just going to address them. You know,
As we go along?
Yeah. Some
Okay.
people didn't see the agenda, so
Yeah, this is, I
I think
think,
we just address them as we move along.
yeah, I think that's a good plan right there. We'll address them as we go along.
I just do it pretty painful.
Okay. The first item we're going to address is the vehicle take-home policy. I've asked Mr. Jimmy to come in and explain the philosophy behind that, and then we can have comments on it after we do that.
Okay, and I'll also call on the chief. As I
Okay,
see
and
fit.
yeah.
But I think the policy was first introduced how many years ago, Doug?
Probably about 2 years ago.
About 2 years ago. Under what presumptive methods, I don't know, but I think it's a good policy to keep, but it needs revision. And we're going to work on the revisions on how we see fit. But let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the policy to begin with, just so people understand what this is about, okay? A disadvantage to it is that it creates extra public awareness, okay? And the citizens are always going to question why those city vehicles out of city limits and what the reasoning would be for that. So that's going to bring up extra work on our part as council and staff, basically to always justify why it's appropriate for these vehicles to be out of the city. So there's going to have to be a recording process in place, whether we use global positioning systems for that, or whether we use the old straight record keeping logs for make sure we can justify that. Because our first call to duty is to always be able to answer the citizens about what we're doing, especially with taxpayer dollars. Okay, so that's an extra burden that we've created on us. The advantages are basically to our officers, basically for retention. Okay, that's number one. And let me explain some of the items that are good for retention of good police officers. Okay, currently our lowest paid police officer makes a little over $19 an hour. And if anybody's followed competitive wages for policing these days, that's barely a competitive wage, and that's a concern. Fortunately, union negotiation contracts are due here shortly in the next month after they switch over to a different union. Currently going through negotiations now with our other service entities, but right now with the police department will be another month or two before we do that. Second of all, a vehicle that is used for use to go home or to commute from work to home in the private sector is something we call taxable income, and that has to be included on your taxes each and every year. Now, if you're in the public sector, that is not. So that is an extra perk or privilege for an officer to do that, because it's an added value without having to basically worry about the added income that they would have to proclaim on their taxes. So that automatically adds to their wage and benefits as a perk. So that has to do with the officer, and we can talk more about that. But let's talk about another point, which is security of our assets, which are the police vehicles. Currently, we don't have a secured lot, which means the public can enter into the lot anytime they want to. We're currently working on that. They're kind of secure the lot. So sometimes it makes us a little edgy to have all our police vehicles parked in one spot, especially overnight, because there could be a catastrophic occurrence and we could lose a lot of our assets. Response time, I'd say, and Devin, you're gonna have to help me out on this. How many of our officers live locally here?
Probably about 5 or so of them.
Okay, So what's kind of nice about that is as we rewrite the policies and look at the policies, if someone has a take-home vehicle, they're technically not paid, but technically on call if we need them to respond to an emergency.
Excuse me,
Yes, ma'am.
these 5 officers, do they have take home?
Most of them do that.
They do.
They either take them home or, so where we work the 12-hour shifts, if they work multiple days in a row, they take the cruisers home for those days that are working and leave their personal car at the office and then take their personal car.
Okay, so there's no one left out as far as taking home a cruiser?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Great point. Okay. The vehicles that are driven the furthest are by our 2 sergeants. Devin can come up with destinations and distances, but I believe one's in Sugar Grove.
Sugar Grove and Albany,
And
it's
Albany.
about 25 miles for each other.
50 both way.
Yes. And they're each in command of the 2 different shifts, correct? They're 12-hour shifts,
Yes.
10 to 10.
Sergeant Reno works 6 to 6, Sergeant Deerhoff works 10 to 10.
Okay, there you go. So basically, most of the clock is covered with somebody as a sergeant in command of those shifts. If you want to add to it, Devin, go ahead. Oh, question?
On that response time,
Yeah.
I'm just a little confused. If the police officer is at home,
Yeah.
whatever vehicle they have is going to get them here at the same amount of time.
So I've had instances where last year there were pretty serious threats made at the school, and I was able to notify officers that were at home. They were able to get dressed at home real quick, hop in their cruiser and respond straight to the school.
So they,
As opposed to.
but
getting
they
dressed
couldn't
or
have done that with their
driving here.
car because they'd had to gone to get the cruiser and then to do that.
It just
Well, could
eliminates
they
all
not
this
have
stuff.
responded with their personal vehicle if they were just there to meet up with you?
With their
No
uniform
idea.
on.
I know it's not ideal, but the question is, could they not have responded
They can respond
regardless?
Quickly, they're not gonna be able to.
Well, and then also the vehicles basically, their personal working space and where they haul all their equipment. A lot of our officers at their own expense, buy equipment basically to use in the line of duty. Okay, and, they use that vehicle to store, those equipment items they have purchased. Ideally, in the future, if budgets, if we have a big enough budget to do that, I'd like to buy some of those tactical things that they buy, because they're pretty expensive. And so they have all their gear with them, and that's what's kind of nice. Because it could be anything from riot gear to special equipment that they might need to handle any situation. And we hope we never have a terrorist threat. We hope we never have weapons of mass destruction, a dirty bomb. We hope we never have any of that. But a lot of that gear is with that. No, go ahead, Rita, say it loudly.
No, I was just saying, you said, you were saying, I hope that, we never have an incident of weapons of mass destruction and rioting or whatever
Yeah,
else you
right.
said. And all I was saying is, I don't think most people know where Nelsonville is even at to plan an attack on it.
Yeah, there's no game here.
Yeah.
Okay. That's fine. I understand. But I mean, we're just trying to explain the philosophies and what readiness and security is all about. And that's important. I mean, we talk about that all the time. Our emergency plan is that if anything ever happens to this facility here, we could instantaneously go down to the wastewater treatment plant and set up shop there. And we could do it very quickly by doing that. So that's part of that also, to kind of keep it mobile and our assets around the town instead of parked in one spot. So anything you want to add to that, Devin?
Yeah, so you're talking about large scale terrorist kind of attacks, but domestic terrorism can come in all shapes and forms. It can start local, someone can target City Hall. It doesn't have to be some mass coordinated multinational threat. It could be someone local, didn't like how they were trained, and they want to blow up a propane tank here, blow up our gas tank, here, something like that.
Schools. Yeah, there was just an incident a couple of years ago, some young men made pipe bombs and set them off downtown in front of a business. I probably remember that area. So it can happen.
So one of the things you're saying is when they do spread out and go home with them, we have a larger area that they can't blow up.
Yeah, well, And, I'm glad you brought that up because it brings to mind another topic. It's a sense of community policing. And, if you talk to the residents where some of our officers live, they have the added comfort of seeing a police cruiser in their community. So, because I've talked to the residents, and they like, I asked them, I said, do you like the idea or not? And they like it, so.
I think that's the big selling point.
But as the people that you're talking to in the community where that cruiser sits
Yes,
and
ma'am.
not outside.
You mean like on the street they live? Is that what you're saying?
Right, you're
Yes.
talking to people around them.
Yes.
What about the people over here that do not have that cruiser that sits in the neighborhood? How do they feel about it?
Well, I know that from the folks I've spoken to, they are opposed to cruisers being taken home.
Okay.
And if I may, as you were talking earlier, I don't believe it's necessary for officers to take cruisers home to be able to provide security for this city. We do have officers who are on duty who can take care of most issues. If there's a problem, they can call the chief and the chief should be able to come up with whatever solution is necessary. 1, 2, the officers taking the cruisers home also involves insurance, maintenance costs, gas, and most importantly, if they were in an accident, this city would be sued, not the individual officer. And as council members, I feel it is our responsibility to the citizens to be good stewards with the people's money, because it is the people's money that we're talking about. I am personally tired of having the city pay out lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit money when so many of them could have been avoided. Okay, so no, I don't believe cruisers need to be taken home.
A good point, well taken. But any current lawsuits that we have, or that litigation doesn't come into that category, but I understand where you're going with that.
Well, I know because I have seen it done. Accident, the girl was not injured at all. However, because the police officer hit her, barely touched her from behind, the first thing she did was get an attorney and sue the city. Okay, so I know that that is going to happen. Secondly, when you were talking about retention, I feel that the officers that are here, the sergeants, I believe is the ones you said that lived close to Columbus. If they wanted to be in Columbus and get that three times more pay that you were saying, that they would be there now. So the question is, why are they not in Columbus? Why did they choose to come to Nelsonville and apply for a job? Because they wanted to be here. The reasonings behind it, only they know. Maybe they like the fact that there's a very low crime rate here. Maybe they like the fact that they didn't have to deal with the amount of crime and the very violent situations that a police officer would get in Columbus. So maybe that was their thought in saying, you know what, I will take less pay because I feel like I may have a chance to live longer if I go to Nelsonville. So I'm not saying that that was their thought process. I'm simply saying if they wanted to be in Columbus, they would be there by now. So the fact that they chose to apply here in Nelsonville for a much lower pay, as you said, that was their personal choice that they made. So if they wanted to move on to Columbus, then they could do that as well. However, I feel like since they didn't do that, I don't think that they're going to be rushing to run off to Columbus simply because we do not allow them to drive their cruisers home.
There was a perk and a benefit that was promised before we all came into being here, and it's going to be hard to take that away, and that's going to be another reason why they would leave. And they've told me that, and that's understandable. I want to reach.
You mean they told you if the cruisers aren't given to them that they would leave?
No, that they feel that basically if this is, something that they've been given, and now they're asking to give it back, they're wondering why. Because, okay, I'll be more specific. The union negotiations could include cruisers that they can take home. A lot of police departments have that. Right now, the chief and I have talked about it, and even the police officers have talked about it, that they really don't want to go that route because it puts the city on the line for their transportation back and forth to home. Because if then a cruiser
Goes out of service.
then we would have to provide them with transportation to and from their residence. So there's a catch with that. So we don't want to put that contractually in the agreement. It's just basically, it's a reward, and it's a perk and a privilege, and it's an added benefit because we can't afford right now to come up with a competitive wage to keep good qualified people here. And our sergeants
Speaking
have,
of the competitive wage, Southeast Ohio is the lowest paying region in Ohio for police officer salaries. City of Nelsonville falls in the bottom 20th percentile for Southeast Ohio.
But City of Nelsonville also has, I don't know what the percentage is, but it's a very high percentage of our citizens here in Nelsonville are below the poverty line, which means Nelsonville does not have tons of money like some of these other cities to provide whatever kind of pay the officers want. And that needs to be taken into consideration because of the fact that we cannot continue to raise for whatever projects are out there that want to get done by some of these city personnel. We cannot continue to put that on the people.
that's an interesting way to look at the status quo. But we're not here for that. We're here to grow the city. And to do that, you have to have an infrastructure. You have to have a good police department and a fire department to encourage people to move and reside and live in the city. I talked about that when I interviewed for this position. People want to see good schools, they want to have good homes, and they need great jobs. And they need, all that includes good policing and fire department and infrastructure that goes with it. So you have to consider that. And right now we're in a growth state, okay? And we can talk more about that all day long, but if you want to stay status quo, that's a decision we'll have to make. But if we want to grow the city, we want to grow the budget, that's what we have to do, okay? There's two ways to look at that. So I understand where you're coming from, but I was hired to do something different, take us to the next level. So that means I need staff. I'm only as good as the people that surround me. So I have an excellent police department right now. I don't get any complaints. Their activity levels are fantastic. Crime is dropping, okay? People have a better sense of comfort and security in this town. And it's looking better for people who want to move in.
If I may,
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Please.
the two highest paid officers are your sergeants, is that not correct?
Yeah.
So basically, they're getting this money, plus they're taking this cruiser outside of Nelsonville. Now, the gentlemen that live in Nelsonville, are they afforded the opportunities that the sergeants are afforded to get the extra money?
Yep, there's a sign-up sheet for special duties. Overtime is generally offered to the officers first as opposed to the sergeants.
Okay, and who is the school officer?
Officer Lyons.
Lyons. Okay.
His salary is also comparable with the sergeant's. It might actually be higher.
Oh, yes, it is.
However,
Which-
his salary is reimbursed to us through the school, so it's not.
It is.
All of it?
Yeah, the city pays out his salary and benefits and stuff, but the school reimburses us for it.
Yes.
Okay, well, that,
And if the school system wanted to have two special officers, they would reimburse us for two. They're just not inclined to do so at this point, but we're reimbursed all the funds for that police officer to be designated to the school systems, which is nice. So I applaud the superintendent for that in the school system and the school board. Yes, sir.
So when I was on council, I did not know of this policy. I guess a select few on council that,
Oh, okay.
that knew about or was in on the whole take-home policy.
Yeah.
Cause I never knew it existed until
Till now.
recently.
Yeah, I think one of our
Now-
former police chiefs lived in Meigs County and actually drove a vehicle all the way to Meigs
He
County.
did, and that was, I guess, that was one of his little perks. But as far as officers driving cars home, I knew nothing about that.
Okay,
And you want us to talk about security
yes, sir.
in the back gate? Well, that compound was secure.
Okay,
We had a gate closed.
okay,
You guys cut a hole in the freaking gate and put a new gate in with a new driveway, which I don't even know is permitted through the county.
okay.
But, so now, I mean, this is a problem that they created or we created.
Okay.
That, adding that gate there never went through council as far as that goes. So now we're saying we have an unsecured,
Yeah, so this time we do.
well, that was created by inner people.
Well, and my thought on saying, well, it's better if they take the vehicle home, because if they don't, it sits here unsecured. Well, doesn't it sit unsecured in their driveway as well? I mean, it's the same
There's
thing.
not 10 of them sitting next to each other.
Yeah, that's the
Distributes
key.
them as
The key is.
Why now has that become an issue when all along there's never been a problem with it?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Now there's an
Why?
issue.
Why?
That's the question.
So that's a
I'd
good
like to know.
observation. That's a good observation.
What do you
Why
mean now
not?
there's an issue? I'm not quite, you mean now?
With the
there's an
security
issue?
of the
Now they're
compound.
making an issue that the
Compound's not secure.
cars are not secure and the parking.
Oh, I got
lot
you,
there.
out there,
Right.
okay.
But they've been there all
All
this time.
along,
Yeah.
for years
That's
and
true.
years.
We're not trying to say that. there's
And-
an
and
imminent
there was
threat
not
that
an
someone's
issue
gonna come
before.
Burn down all our cruisers, but it's one of those things you kind of.
Well, and you know, I think you can what if this thing to death.
Absolutely.
You can take it from 2 years ago, somebody pipe bombed the city, and then you're gonna change all this stuff up because 2 years ago, somebody done something. That's what, I believe, that's what happens with people like us. We react.
You have a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it's sometimes it's just things like that go on, you know? So to justify the policy with unsecured parking lots, with officers being able to speed and get out of here and get to the place, these guys from 24 miles, 25 miles down this way and that way, they don't come down, do they?
Finding a supervisor. I've had Sergeant Deardre.
So they'll drive down if you need, what, overtime?
One night we had to execute a search warrant towards the end of the day. I needed an additional supervisor down here. I was able to have Sergeant Deardre get dressed and ready to respond straight here from Albany. He was able to come light some sirens and be here a little bit quicker.
I mean, if
That's
it was
an issue
a
too.
warrant,
Yeah,
then
that,
that's not an emergency.
that could be an issue, those
Yeah,
sirens.
He could have
So-
driven, got his car, and then accompanied
It's not an
you to
emergency
serve
when
a
someone's
warrant.
shooting a firearm off from their house.
It is an emergency, but the point we're making, Devin, and I've talked to a lot of citizens. I have talked to a lot of citizens.
Mhm.
And it comes up as a sore subject because of these guys living so far away and the response time that they would have to come. Lighten up the vehicle, running 80 mile an hour down 33 or up 50 or whatever he's coming from can be a problem.
Mhm.
You know, so I think that's what some of the citizens I've talked to are concerned with is, you know, these guys are driving 25 mile this way and 25 mile back. Oh, you need to go home, come back. That mounts up for some money.
Mhm.
So I think that's what we're talking about
That's
here.
fine. So I did the math on the money for driving them back and forth
Right,
at an average of 13 miles a gallon for the cruiser, 25 miles each way, $4 a gallon for gas. That's an extra cost of about $800 per officer
for what?
for the whole year.
For a year.
Per year. Yeah, that's not much.
How much?
About $800 per,
Oh, no.
which did not affect our budget at
No,
all.
that's not it.
So, and I noticed in your police, take-home policy that you have that they can stop and purchase. stopping by things on the
With
way
approval,
home.
if they want to stop at the store on the way home,
Yeah.
I give them permission to do that.
So, and somebody asked me the other day, they said, well, what if the police officer goes in, grabs him a 12-pack of beer, puts it in the car and drives on up to Sugar Grove? And I see that as a problem. I see that as a problem that's not going to look good for Nelsonville, is I saw a police officer in Walmart buying a 12-pack of beer.
You recall, we talked about, we can what if everything?
Well, we can what if everything, but a citizen told me that. We are what if. The citizen told me that.
We also have provisions in the employee handbook to prevent them from doing that.
But the policing of it ain't there.
Exactly.
And if I may interject here, you were talking about taking home the cruisers. Now, in Columbus, it is in the contract. They take their car to a remote area. A remote area meaning like they can take it up to Logan's Police Department, park it there, and then they take their own car home. That is in Columbus.
But it's in the contract.
It's in the contract.
And that is what I had said as well, that when you go to apply for a job and they come back and they're gonna offer you a job, any professional job, before you accept the job, they tell you, this is how much we're gonna pay you for your benefits. Yeah, you will have a personal vehicle to use, a company vehicle, or no, you won't. And you decide at that point, okay, this is what they're offering me. Do I want it or do I not?
Well, I just wanted to throw that in, that the parking in another location, picking up their car and going home. That's what I was thinking.
Right, and
Rather than,
That makes sense.
right, and what I was saying, is that at that point you decide, yes, I'll accept the job as it is. Now, these officers signed their contract not long ago, fully aware of what they were getting, as in pay and benefits and everything else. Nowhere in there did it say you will get to drive your cruiser home. Nowhere. Furthermore, the only folks that have the authority to make those type of decisions is council.
That's false.
That's incorrect.
That's incorrect, yeah.
That is incorrect. I'm sorry, I have to tell you that, but that is incorrect. That is daily operations from the city manager to the police chief. We get to make those decisions. You hire us for that. You appropriate the money, legislate things. We make daily decisions. And there's a reason for that. But that's.
Because you're there every day.
Yes. And we see that basically, as a need for daily operational use, and that's what we do. There's a reason for that.
Okay.
And we just, this doesn't sound politically correct, but we offer this discussion as a courtesy to council and the citizens for them to voice their opinions, because of course we want buy-in. We want you to think it's a great idea, because we're moving the city to a different level. And we have to get good quality people here. If this is an additional thing we can offer our officers, I think it's a great thing to do.
so basically,
Yes, ma'am.
whatever council suggests or wants, you're gonna override it.
No, I'm gonna abide by it.
Oh, that's what you just
That's-
said. Did you
that's-
operate as a courtesy?
Currently I can do that, yes, but why would I do that? Okay,
Good
because
question.
if you're speaking for the citizen,
We're open to input. It's not-
yeah, we're open to input. Okay, that's not the point. The point is, we're trying to get, you want us to go to what, like I said, I'll repeat this. If you want to stay at the status quo, to keep things the way they are, we're fine with that. And so, it takes a lot of time and energy to recruit good people to work in an organization. And then retention is a big thing. The chief and I thought it was a good idea, because we reviewed this many times, to do so, basically retain good people. But if that's not in line with what council and the people want, that is okay with us. But
to know.
but basically for daily decisions, until you by ordinance otherwise change it, we're gonna do what we need to do for the needs of the city. So if this is what you want and council want to change the rules, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But I just want everybody to know that that was a decision made by council and not by the city manager and the police chief running daily operations as we see fit. So you know, I could show you countless evidence and videos of police departments our size and cities our size around the country, where a police officer wants certain things, and if they don't get it, they do move on. I understand that about jobs, I understand that about accepting contracts, but you have to decide again, and I'll repeat this. Do you want to stay the way they are, or do we want to go to a different level, and do we want the city to grow? And your biggest and best assets are your people, we all know that. Yes, ma'am,
Can I just say on the devil's advocate, I guess,
go right ahead.
that I would personally feel more secure if I knew my neighbor was a police officer and there was a car sitting outside.
A lot of people have told me that. Yeah.
So I think that that would help people think twice if they were gonna do something in my neighborhood. So I have a house next door to me that's for
Sure.
sale. I'm willing, if a police officer would love to come live there, I would love it.
Actually, a couple of them are looking for houses, so.
Yes, please.
So, I mean, and that's okay, I mean, we just have to understand that we have to pick it one direction and go. I'm okay with what you have to say, Reed, but if everyone's in concurrence and, consensus, then I would gladly do that. So, that's your job to call it to our attention, and we can always revise rules and policies, okay? But the way the charter is written, we control daily operations. What do you think, Mr. Sherman? Am I wrong there or not?
Well, you do the day-to-day business, but council will set policy.
Okay. Fine by me.
Well, that being said,
Yes.
I think what we're going to do is we're going to send this over, we're going to send this to the city council. And I'm going to make a recommendation that we stop this policy.
Okay.
Because it was supposed to have stopped, but Sunday there was a vehicle taken home from this place right here. And it was supposed to have not been taken.
Who
So-
made that decision?
I make Friday.
Who made the decision to stop the policy?
Mr. Conjemi did.
You
You
agreed-
You had agreed that until council resolved the issue permanently, you agreed that the officers would no longer be taking the
Not
vehicles.
completely accurate. I will give you the accurate moratorium statement that I made with Mr. Smith. I was deployed in Florida, okay? First of all, I called him because basically, he wanted to call a meeting and didn't talk to me about it before calling the meeting, which caused a lot of distraught on my staff. So I said, okay, no foul, let's talk more. I said, what would it take and what do you want me to do? And he said, well, I'd like for everything to stop until January 8th, until we all can meet and talk about this. So I agreed the moratorium will last until then. And then I said to myself, okay, that date is over with, nothing was decided, back to business as usual. Now, if you want me to put another moratorium on it and stop everything, and you're telling me to do that tonight, I will gladly do so.
This is what I heard during, we weren't in council at the time, you were in there also. So we're not gonna take them home, and you said, yes, we're not gonna take them home until we hear more from the council.
That is correct. You said that at the last
As we were leaving,
meeting.
so that, with that said, I feel that we need to, the police and fire needs to make a recommendation that we stop the policy.
Okay.
And that we can take a vote on it here to send it to the city council as an ordinance. So
I don't believe this committee can make that decision
that's fine.
to stop the policy.
So
We can,
what would you vote?
we can support moving it to full council, but we as a committee can't make that decision.
Well, I think we can make a recommendation.
You can make recommendations, correct?
We can make in an ordinance for a first reading,
You can do that,
right?
right?
So that's what I want to do. Turn it over to the city council. And, so if we'll do a vote for it to do that, do you want to vote yes?
No.
To send it to council. That's what he's
Just
saying.
to send it to council
The vote is to
To
send it to council.
as a recommendation to stop the policy to park the police cars.
No.
Nancy?
Can I ask why?
Because I believe the city manager sets the policy.
That's the way the charter's written. But if you wanna change that, that's fine. No, that's okay, go ahead, make
Yeah,
your decisions.
you two get to vote.
You get to vote.
If you two vote yes, then it moves on, but I'm voting no.
I'm going to say yes, because I think it should go before the full council and let everyone
I do too.
have a say-so.
Mhm.
That's why I'm saying yes.
Yep, I think so too. So I think we'll go ahead and just get the council involved in that. Let the decision be made. We'll put an ordinance up. I'll give it to Susan and, we can take a look at it on the 22nd.
Actually, the ordinance would go to the city attorney,
We don't
correct?
have one.
We don't have a city attorney any longer. His contract has expired.
December 31st.
That is
Then
correct.
who writes the ordinance? If we
The
don't have it,
council clerk can write the ordinance.
the council clerk can write the ordinance.
Hey, Taylor Sappington wrote quite a few of them when he was
That's
on council.
exactly right.
Absolutely, nothing was ever said.
So,
about
and that was okay with you.
Well, it's okay with me.
Taylor Zappington writing the ordinances that he put through.
We're not discussing that, we're
Oh, well,
discussing.
that's exactly what you're saying, that
I'm
the,
asking
Hold on,
you-
wait, hold.
It sets a
I'm,
precedent.
Chairman, Mr. Chairman, I'm asking who will write the ordinance if we don't have a city attorney?
Well, the ordinances have already been written. Mr. Smith wrote one. Or suggested one. So, I guess what we can do is just go ahead and turn it over to the council.
You can do that, and we have the availability of an attorney, so don't worry.
Who is it?
It's still Jonathan Rose. I can contract with him. You know what, I mean, I can extend this contract. It's temporary until you vote it in, because we need the advice of an attorney. You can't run the city without the advice of an attorney. That's true.
So what good are we doing here?
But who good are we doing here? This is your committee, this is your recommendations. You can do what you want. I applaud that. I'm just saying, don't blow up the building to sacrifice for one thing that you really want. Okay, because we've got a fantastic police force. They were promised things, and basically moving forward, if you're asking for my opinion, are you asking for my opinion? This is a mistake, but that's okay. I still can run the city, even if I'm handicapped. But I don't appreciate it.
Well,
Because-
I know that, but I
because
think,
you
I
got
think
to-
you're foreseeing things that.
I'm
might
not
happen.
foreseeing anything. I'm trying to be courteous about it and professional about it. Council is way overreaching here, especially as, this is a committee, so I'm gonna be okay with that. And if it goes on to council, I will state to council that you are far overreaching. That's not the way the charter is designed. I'm not here for any power trip. I'm just here to tell you. That's the way the charter, if you want that form of government, then go back to the old mayor-elect, okay? But that's not the way this works. Same thing with confirmation of an attorney, and we'll get to that on January 22nd. The same thing. I'm sorry to disagree with you all, but please read the charter. Unless you're changing the charter, okay, we have no further discussion. We can move on to the topic.
So where does-
vote how you want to. You
Where
can
does
take
it say that in the charter? Where does it say that we can't make a policy change? Does it say that?
You have to change the charter.
So the council, so the committees cannot make policy changes?
No, they
It
can
says
make,
that in the
they can make
council.
recommendations to council.
He's saying.
And that's what we're doing.
You cannot change, you can change the charter as a council.
No, I mean, we want to make the recommendation for the council to decide on,
Go right ahead.
You just did.
I
okay?
just did.
All right, move on.
Thank you.
Okay, next thing on our little agenda here, which we need to get going, is, I wanted to talk about our, the maintenance logs for vehicles. I think, Harry keeps maintenance logs on his vehicles, is that correct, Harry?
Yeah, we have annual maintenance. We have a company that comes in annually and does the work for big large apparatus, and then anytime, same as PD, anytime we have work done, we have to invoice.
Do you do any kind of records on when oil changes in vehicles or anything like that? if something breaks down.
Everything's on paper. It's not documented right now in our software. We're in the process of changing our software at the fire station.
Right,
But we have, like our company, All American comes in annually, does oil changes, fuel
Right.
changes on all of our trucks, 100-point inspections, things like
Right.
that.
and I was told that, there's a program in the computer for
For
the,
iWorks, for fleet management.
yeah,
We log our fuel and stuff like that, when vehicles go get maintenance. But we keep copies of all the invoices.
mileages and everything.
Yeah, it logs all the
right.
mileages.
That was more of a question than And, the next thing is, we want to make I'd like to make a recommendation to review our fire chief's compensation. Because Harry has been a loyal fireman for 22 years. And I think he's been kind of overlooked. And I think that, I appreciate him, and it's been said in here that everybody knows we got a good fire chief that takes care of the city. So I think he needs to be compensating. So I'm going to make a recommendation that we take a look at his salary, $79,000. So if we could make that recommendation to council, because I guess we can't write an ordinance since we don't have an attorney right at the time being. I'd like to take that to the city council and have it written into the ordinance.
Is there any objection, sir?
No,
I have a question. So currently, how
I'm
much?
here to talk about his great achievements and the great record. So, no.
What was you saying, Greg?
So how much does the police chief currently make?
76,
76 and
5, 4.
something like that. Yeah.
76.5. And what is the current salary of the fire chief before the proposal?
No, I think it's right around 70,
How much?
right around 70.
70?
69, 569.
It's not on our check stub.
So I think that's I think that needs balanced a little bit more appropriately. So I will make that recommendation that we turn it to the city council. And when we get a city attorney, we can write an ordinance if we all approve it. Agreed? Mr. Clement?
I will support moving it to full council. That does not mean I support the numbers involved at this point.
Why not?
Well, he can have that.
Well, no, I mean,
I would just like to say it's about time. Harry Barber's been overlooked, has been disrespected for years here. When everybody else got raises without provocation or even discussion of, well, where are we getting that money? Well, where are we doing this? Well, where are we doing that? But only when it comes to Harry Barber or the fire department is, well, we need to run that back through committee. We need to do this or we need to do that. And it's always been shuffled off. And it's about time the city steps up and recognizes a man that does events for the city. His fire department is.
Are you directing your comment to me, Mr. Sherman?
Oh, I'm just happy to be looking at you because you're
Okay.
so pretty.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. But I would like to correct your statement if I could interrupt.
No,
you
you
for a moment.
cannot correct my
Well, I am
statement.
going to because,
No, you're not.
Mr. Chairman,
No.
when the raises were proposed for the previous city manager and the
Police
previous
chief
police
and
chief,
the-
I was the only one that voted no. Mr. Sherman actually voted yes. My proposal was to take that money and split it between the department heads.
I know.
So to say and look at me and direct those comments to me
Oh, I just.
is
looked at it.
irresponsible, Mr. Sherman.
Oh,
Thank
you're-
you very much.
You're welcome.
So,
Okay, guys. Okay,
back to
guys.
back to the point at hand.
You have the floor,
That, you're right, I do have.
which you, go ahead.
But, it's about time that the city finally recognizes the things that the fire department does. I mean, we got firefighters that go in and fight fire for $11 or $11.41 or some shit like that. Or $14.11, I'm sorry, that's what it is. Which is crazy. You got the fire chief, they go out, they put the Christmas lights up, they put the Santa stuff together. They do events for the city all throughout the year. They participate in all kinds of exterior events. And anytime the PR needs to be there, the fire department's there. And it's just about time that Harry Barber finally gets a little bit of recognition for the department that he's built.
Well, we'll see what we can do by turning this over to the council. You vote yes?
Yes,
or no?
yes.
Yes, okay, I'll vote yes also. So we'll send this over to the council to take a look at. And if necessary, and the votes are there for it, we'll have an ordinance drawn up. And put that in place, maybe retroactive.
Can't
The first, you can't retroactive?
No, we only did that with the police chief, and that was not really legal.
So we won't do that.
Right.
Scratch that part. So, and then now, you want to talk about the contract, between Bookville, the contract that we might want to take a look at tonight, or?
Bring that contract with you.
No, I'm gonna print it off real quick. Maybe just a couple seconds.
Okay.
Just let me add to the, why it's important we do that, because the political part is very important, but the certification part is the most important. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
Especially, when I'm putting grants and proposals together, and again, to take the city to the next level. Okay, Chief Barber is in charge of 28 firefighters, okay? Basically, he's served since 2001. He's had 9 years as the chief, and he's been the only fire chief that has passed the test by the Ohio Fire Chiefs Association. So that means something. So that's Nelsonville first and only in the whole history of the fire department, okay? Professional FF2, fire instructor, fire safety inspector, emergency management technician, EMT, that's great. Hazardous materials, okay, incident response trained, and everything from blast arson to high angle rope rescue to weapons of mass destruction. This is the kind of stuff I was talking about earlier with the police department. So, he currently serves on the board for Tri-County, basically, as the fire and EMS training program, and this is the most important of public relations right here. It's training, teaching, and prevention program that he has all his firefighters participate in, you know? Right? From drop to the ground, you know, smoke something. And the organizations that he represents, the city of Nelsonville, from CTEC to LAPC to Connery Fire Association to the National Fire Protection Association. And in his whole history of career, he's gotten over more than $500,000 in grants, okay? And the most important thing to our citizens is the reason why their insurance rates are so low in the city of Nelsonville, because we have one of the best ISO ratings for the city and township, especially in the state of Ohio, because we have a full-time fire department, because he has a credentialed background.
I am so glad you brought that up because $79,000 is not enough.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Joanne.
Well, we have to start somewhere.
No, we're not starting there.
Okay, well, we can talk a little bit about the dispatcher. Now, I'm gonna make a recommendation for the dispatching part of, the dispatch service for the police department.
Okay, go ahead.
I think, of course, I'll probably get, you can't do that because of something, but I think before, the police and fire makes a recommendation for this, I think we ought to look at the facilities that we're hiring. The facilities, 911 in the Plains, and go to Hockin College and take a look at their setup. Because the efficiency part of it is something that I think if we're gonna make an accurate decision, we need to make it on what we see, not what we hear. What do you think?
You're talking about the state-of-the-art facility they're building right now in the plans.
Just take a look at it, go in and let them show us, rather than have them here for a presentation, look at the actual setup, comparing the two.
No, it's gonna be a 3 vehicle crash.
Bye, Harry.
Don't forget to put your razor ready.
You got to go, Devin?
No, couple vehicle crash, no major injuries.
What did you say?
Couple vehicle crash.
Oh, what?
Call John George for
There's our schedule.
Call John George for 849.
It's not just the contract.
I don't know. John is.
Can I have a copy?
Who's that?
Because I don't know.
The contract for policing the building. If you want a copy, Dan?
Okay, maybe we got to review this. Come back. And come back on it. Of course, you said it's expired, right?
No,
That's my belief. It expired.
Has it expired, Tom?
It expired the 31st.
Yeah.
Of December?
Yes.
So,
Mr. Clinton is that, we need time to read.
yeah, right. But what would your recommendation be?
This is basically, the contract.
Quiet, please, quiet, please.
Quiet, please. Continue.
Go ahead.
The contract is about the same price and, same, parameters as it was last year, so there's not much change. The change would be, we're gonna purchase, the Brookville Cruiser for what, about $8,000?
That's what it says here,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, good.
Yeah, there's no change to the price. The only change is we're getting, in lieu of $8,000 of cash, they're giving us a cruiser that's fully outfitted.
Yeah,
So we're not paying anything for the cruiser? Oh, okay.
We're giving services.
They're taking $8,000 off the first portion of the contract and then continuing paying instead.
So it would have been, what, 40,000 instead of 32? Is that
No,
what you're
it's still-
saying?
It is still 32, but the first year, I think it's a 2-year contract. The first year they pay us $24,000 and give us the cruiser.
yes,
Oh, I got you.
So they're giving us.
In lieu of the 32?
yes,
Yes, okay, okay,
it's fair appraisal of the cruiser we've
Okay.
got, you know.
okay.
Be a nice
Yeah.
backup.
So we can go ahead and, does this need to be taken in front of the council? The contract? Yes,
No contract.
so, you want to make a motion to do that?
Yeah, this contract's been before us for a while.
Right, it was on your last
Yeah.
council.
So I'm fine with moving it forward as.
Okay, all right. You okay with it?
Yes.
We also have the added benefit, it's a relatively short-term contract, so after 2 years is up, you can renegotiate. with me.
Oh,
This one
okay.
was just due to how things were, but pretty much the same as the previous one.
Right. So Brookville doesn't have any police anymore, right? Okay.
We took over in beginning of January 2020.
And do we do their fire also? Mr. Finnegan?
No, we do not.
I'm sorry?
No, we do not. That's short township.
Oh, that's right. Okay. All right.
Terry's working on a fire district.
Okay, so we'll carry this over to the council on the 22nd to approve this ordinance or renew this ordinance. Okay.
Thanks.
I think that's all I've got.
Okay.
I think that's all we've
Thanks for
got.
inviting
This is nice right here, Tom. That's really nice. That's a nice testament to Mr. Hart.
So I do have a question. Before we move the proposed pay raise to ordinance, it needs to go through the finance committee first. So I don't know if that could happen before our next council meeting.
No,
You just have finance.
Well, you've got Wednesday, Thursday,
Who's
Friday.
your finance person?
Well, the ordinance has to be before the attorney,
Well,
tomorrow,
that,
I
now,
believe it is.
why would that go through finance from where the police and fire?
Because that's not what
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
They didn't run some of the other pay raises. They just.
Okay, well, so then we'll send it to the finance committee, okay? Yeah, we'll send it over to the finance committee, and are you on the finance committee?
Johnny Flowers chairs it and Nancy.
No, no, no.
No, 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 no.
I'm on the finance.
Greg
committee.
Clement's on the finance.
No, I'm
No,
not
it's
on
not.
finance.
Oh, you're not now?
No, I gave you the new.
We're on my list.
Well, anyway, we'll get
Really?
that over to them and see if they can go ahead and get a meeting called and see if we can.
It's
We probably can't
Greg
get it till next
Smith.
Monday. can we?
It's just
No.
type.
The
Yeah.
ordinance has to be before
It is tight,
Really?
Bob.
the
I read
city,
it like it's tight.
Hold on.
the city
Oh,
attorney by, I believe, Wednesday. which would be tomorrow.
right.
That's why Susan gets them sometimes on Sunday night.
Yeah, I know. I know you do. Okay, so we'll do that. Any more questions?
Yes, so does the resource officer currently have a cruiser?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Are there any more comments from our,
Well, I knew that they were trying to do something to delay the whole race thing, but.
No, I really
Just-
like what you did for
yeah,
that
that's nice.
chart there.
That's really nice. That
That's an A+
justifies the whole
chart.
thing right there.
I'd like to respond to that. This is not to delay. It always goes through the finance.
Yeah,
You're aware of that, Mr. Sherman?
Yeah, I know it's another delay.
Dan.
No, it's
Dan,
bullshit.
no.
This is disrupting a meeting.
What are you gonna do?
Thank you.
Dan. Okay, so we'll go ahead and, it's, 7:55. We'll go ahead and call this meeting, the police and fire. Okay?
Maybe I should go outside and wait my car.